Welcome, Western Oregon sports fans, to this edition of Wolves Weekly. Joining me again this week, head men's basketball coach Craig Stanger. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing okay, doing okay.
Well, it feels like it's been a while, but we got to finally see a couple games here at home this last week. You guys were on the road or off for a while, it felt like there.
Yeah, on the road for a little bit, and it's always tough in this conference, but we were looking forward to coming home and playing in the comfortable confines of our gym.
And we did have some pretty good crowds out there. You got some nice little ruckus crowds out there. I would like to talk to you a little bit first about the game that you opened with on Thursday.
Sure.
Against Montana State Billings. Got a little revenge against them.
It was. That was a game our players were definitely looking forward to because we had struggled getting out of the gates against them over there in Billings and dug a 24-point hole, and we wanted to see how we could play and put two good halves of basketball together.
You always hear this term associated when they talk about basketball, the other ones, the big three, as they say. The three big scores on that one, and I don't want to quite, steal that label or pass it off another one, but you were able to get all three, your main scores, your top scores going in that game. Blair Whedon had 22 points, Kyle Long 18, and Terrence Glenn had 17. Talking about just a little bit of when you have so many options for scoring in a game.
Well, they did do a good job, and they are our core, and they need to be able to produce on any given night. And if they're not, some other guys need to step up. But it's really important that you have a multiple array of options, and those three guys are able to do a good job of that, particularly against Montana State.
And actually, I'd like to hear a little bit more about that right now. I'd actually like to cut to our special guest in studio today, Blair Whedon. Blair, how you doing over there?
Good.
Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this Billings game specifically, but kind of as an overall broader point of view. You guys were able to get out and shoot 52.5% for the game. Always got to be good as an offense if you guys go over 50%. But I'd like to hear about the defensive side of those. What are your goals, and what do you guys try to do to limit opponents maybe both inside the arc and outside the arc?
Well, as a team, our goal is to hold people under 40% for the game, and switching up our defensive looks, I think it really helps. It's hard to get things going.
Do you guys have a point of emphasis? Do you guys really try to limit the three-point line or take away the drives or something? Do you guys have a true focus you guys have on that one?
It really depends what defense we're in. I mean, when we're in our 1-3-1, it's what we give up is a little different than when we're in our man. So.
Well, we know that you have a lot of responsibilities out there, both on defense, playing in that 1-3-1, possibly guarding the other teams when you switch up the other team's point when you guys go to that one. But I'd like to hear a little bit about your role on the offense. I was very impressed with the game against the Yellow Jackets. Western Oregon had only 9 turnovers in the game. A lot of that has to do with reflecting on the point guard. Talk to me about just how important it is to value the basketball in each possession.
Well, it's for us, our goal is to keep it under 15% for the game, and I just felt that game, me and Jordan and the offense, we just took care of things and didn't really have to force much that game, so it helped.
Well, that's always good when you guys can move the ball around. You guys were able to get some assists out of that one, too. It wasn't like you guys were timid at passing the ball or anything, and it wasn't all one-on-one type of play. But apart from being just your role as a distributor, making sure other teammates are involved and stuff, we've seen you've picked up the scoring, especially in GNAC play. You're averaging over 20 points a game in GNAC play. Talk to me a little bit about maybe the dual role of being a distributor and a scorer at the same time.
I mean, it just don't really know how to explain it. I mean, when the shot clock's running down and stuff, when we need a quick bucket, me, Kyle, and Terrence all have the ability to create our own shot. So it just, whatever comes, sometimes I get more looks in the game than the others, but it doesn't really affect it.
Fantastic. I'd actually like to talk to you a little bit more about that core of players they just mentioned, about Kyle and Terrence, but we'll get right back to Blair in just a minute. I'd like to hear a little bit more from Coach Stanger over here. You guys are now tied, or you guys are actually now 5th in the GNAC, and as we talked about before, it's not, especially with this conference playoff coming up and stuff, every game really matters. It's not a matter of being the top 4, something like that, because it can matter where you're having to go or possibly even get the host out of those ones.
Yeah, it's a big deal right now, and with each and every game, there's such parity, and from about 3rd to 8th place, everyone's within a couple of games of each other. So any particular week, you can move up significantly or move down, and so we're all kind of jockeying for position right now. Obviously, everyone wants to be able to host at least that first round of the playoffs, and that would be big for us. And we're in a position where we can still do that. We've got to get up into the 4th spot, and we have an opportunity this weekend on Thursday to play Western Washington, who is right now a half game ahead of us, sitting in 4th spot. And so if somehow we can find a way to take care of things and beat them up there, that would give us a sweep on them for the season and give us a leg up in that regard. But so it's a definite challenge, and it's something that all the teams are looking at right now with this playoff at the end of the year as to where you're going to end up.
Well, speaking of Western Washington and challenges on those same ones, you are now, we talked about being halfway through the season, but you're now coming back around and playing all these teams for the second time through. I'd just like to hear what uniqueness it is going into play a team the first time when you haven't seen how you match up against them, you just see the film, versus the second time, and what adjustments you have to make as a coach and as the players.
Well, both the coaches and the players make a lot of adjustments, and you talked to Blair earlier about shot selection, and he talked about the big three, making plays. It comes down to that, guys being able to make reads, because we are well scouted. We scout the other team, they scout us. We know what's coming. It's kind of like playing your older brother or little brother. That you know each other's moves, you know each other's tendencies, and so you've got to be able to read the defenses and make adjustments, and that's something that Blair does a really good job of, and I think that's a tribute to why he's scoring so much, is because he's able to make that read and make that adjustment and get a good shot opportunity. And so as a team, we definitely look to look for those different nuances. We'll look at more film. We'll see where how they defended us the first time, and look to exploit some weaknesses in that. And then we also, even though we keep our same offensive schemes, we'll make some mild adjustments, work on some things so that we do things a little bit better. And if you know what each other does, it's really important that you execute. And so we really strive on being able to execute the little details of our offense or our defense so that we can clean it up and be that much more difficult to stop.
Well, I'd actually like to talk to Blair a little bit about these ones, and the fact that he's been playing with some of this core group of players that we're talking about. This is basically your third year. You and Kyle Long have been playing together now in that backcourt for 3 seasons. I know Terrence Glenn and Colton Nelson were banging around in practice that first year, but they were both redshirts. Talk to me a little bit about the core of this team. You guys don't have any seniors right now, a lot of juniors, and just what you think you guys are building as a team right now.
I mean, with Colton and Terrence and me and Kyle, we really developed a little cohesiveness there, and we all know how each other plays, and so it makes it easy to just play with our styles. And going with all the other players, we're all a really tight bunch this year, so it helps that, and I think it's going to help in the future next year.
What do you feel is your greatest strength? Maybe not so much scoring the ball or defensively, but as a team and with that core players, the time that you've come to maybe bond or anything else?
Big strength for us, I think, is just being calm. I mean, even though Terrence and Colton are just sophomores, me and Kyle are still pretty veteran juniors, and I feel like that even when it comes down to close game situations, we're all just a pretty calm group, and we don't freak out or anything when big plays happen. And
you've really been able to see that this year. You guys have had 6 different games decided by 4 points, and you guys are 5-1. Those have to be something, like you said, the calmness there, both at the point guard and just the overall team on the floor. With those wins, I'd like to hear a little bit more what kind of team goals you guys have set forth for yourself the rest of the season. Coach Stanger mentioned there's always seeding and other things in the GNAC, but what kind of goals do you guys have set forth the rest of the season?
I mean, obviously we want to host a playoff game, so at this 5th spot right now, we're not going to be at that position. So this next 2 games are really big for us, and I mean, just getting in that top 4 and just trying to improve for each spot from there on.
Well, you've been able to see them once through now. What can Wolves expect to see from Simon Fraser when you guys go up and play them the second time through?
They're going to be a team that, I mean, their offense is run through basically 2 players, their point guard and their shooting guard, and they're not going to sway away from that at all. They're going to get their shots up, and we just got to be able to contain those 2 guys and execute on offense, and we should be fine.
Do you take that as a personal challenge when another team brings in 2 very good guards, where we know a lot of the scoring will come from?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, but it's still more of a team concept to shut both of them down and make the other players step up and play big.
Well, thank you very much, Blair. Thanks for joining us. And Coach Stanger, you guys will go on the road this week. You guys will be Thursday up at Western Washington, and then Saturday you guys will go over to Simon Fraser. As Blair mentioned, 2 very important games, both for the year and keep the season going.
2 very contrasting styles too. Western Washington, very physical, very big. They'll want to establish things inside. They do have some guys that shoot the perimeter shot very well also, but a very big team, physical team. And Simon Fraser, as Blair talked about, very guard-oriented, that they will shoot from anywhere and any time and do a good job of getting to the rim as well. And both are very explosive teams, very dangerous teams, and we'll have to play extremely good basketball on the road this week.
Well, fantastic. Well, if there's one positive I want to say about that, this road trip, And only one more for the rest of the regular conference season. It comes and goes way too quick, Coach.
It does go quick, and we feel good that we've got sort of the biggest ones out of the way, of the flight trips, and these will be, you know, bus situations, so that's a little bit better. And our guys have shown a good ability to focus on the road. We are 2-3 on the road, and you know, I think they've learned how to compete and to deal with adversity on the road, and so I expect us to play well and challenge them.
Thanks for watching Wolves Weekly.